that having forgiven you, he has restored you to fellowship. Because when you commit an offense, it is not relationship that is broken, it's fellowship that is broken. They are two different things. No matter how this young man misbehaves, he's still your son. The worst that may happen is that you get angry with him and maybe spank him and maybe discipline him, but to say he's no longer your son, no. So relationship is still there, but fellowship has been tampered with. Because he may do something and then you will not be happy with it, and so there is no flow, that kind of a thing. But if he genuinely says that I am sorry, that kind of a thing, and then a flow has been restored, so fellowship and relationship are back together and ongoing. So when God says you are forgiven, haven't confessed before him, and he says you are forgiven, you must get up from that place believing him that you are forgiven and never go back to that matter again. Even when the thought of it comes up in you, confession this time around means you speak positively. The Lord has forgiven me of this iniquity. The Lord has forgiven me of this transgression. The Lord has forgiven me of this sin. That is still confession, but it is now on a positive note. You get what I'm saying now? Now, in so doing, you should walk in the consciousness that having forgiven you, he has restored you. Now, in restoring you, it means that all the rights and the benefits that were yours before there was a disruption of fellowship have been restored. You get the point I'm making? We must rise up from that place, believing that God has forgiven us. Right? Now, in believing that he has forgiven us, we also should believe that he has restored us to the place we had with him. And in believing that we've been restored to the place we had with him, we can now approach the issues of Nigeria as sons and daughters, not as the people who are struggling with the enemy. And I said to them in that day, and I said, do you guys recall that here comes Satan, and he says to Jesus, look at all these kingdoms and their glories. They've been given to me. Jesus didn't argue with the fact the kingdoms have been given to Satan. But Jesus did one thing. He said, get thee behind me. I said, you come to a place where you enter into your sonship in the Father, that you can actually look at a demon, even when the claim of that demon have some level of legitimacy. You can look at that demon and say, get thee behind me. Because you are now talking from the authority of one who is united with the Father, and you're talking as a son. Satan is not a son. He will never be a son. So as a son, you have more authority than him. It does not matter the authority he commands. He was never a son. So you're coming from that pedestal, that height of being a son. Because as a son, you carry your father's, you are your father. You get the point I'm making now? Like it to be said, like fathers, like sons. So you're coming from that pedestal and say, Satan, the Lord rebuke you. Get thee behind me. And if we come to that understanding and approach the matter like that, you see, I'm saying these things to challenge us. What's the challenge here? You and I must vow a vow of allegiance before God, not by power nor by might. In fact, what is happening in this nation, in Africa, in the nations of the world, as far as I'm concerned, is giving us an opportunity that before the thing knocks at our door, we would have made a vow before God. We would have entered into a consecration of allegiance before God and said, even if I'm the only one remaining in this nation, though not by power nor by might, but by your spirit, I still will not bow to whatever be the bar of our time in this nation. You see, God must find a people in this nation, both now and in the far future, if Christ tarries, he must find a people that it will be said darkness could not engulf this nation because these people were in this nation. You see, the revival that is happening in China, that is happening in Iran and Iraq, is because a certain people were in those nations. Apart from those who are outside of that nation and praying, a certain people were in those nations that nobody knew about them, and they committed themselves to God. You need to go and study on what they call the catacombs. That's how the church in China survived. The church went underground. When communist nation thought they had extinct the church, they didn't know the church just changed location. They were no longer on the surface. They went underground. So there were people who were there in catacombs and pray. They didn't have the privilege of having a whole Bible. Sometimes it's just a piece of the Bible that they will get. So this one is passed to a brother. A brother will study it and chew it, every line of it, and pass it to the next brother, and pass it to the next sister, and pass it to the next brother, and onward like that. And then it moves to the next catechism. They didn't have the privilege of this. Yes, sometimes missionaries from outside of China will just tear a page of the Bible and find a way of hiding it in their luggage and enter with it into China, because this may be difficult to hide. But a piece of paper like this, you can comfortably hide it. And they will enter with it into China. And it goes to the catacombs. And then they will study a page. They can take 1 week studying the page and passing it around, and praying as though the entire Bible was that page they saw. It sustained China. That today we can talk about one of the fastest growing churches on earth being in China. That today we can talk about one of the fastest growing moves of Christianity being in Iraq, being in Iran, because some people vowed after they encountered God, they said, over my dead body, that Christianity be recorded zero in this nation. The people may not know me, the pastors may not know me, other brethren all over the world may not know me, but God knows. And since he sees in the secret, I will stay in this secret here and keep the lamp burning until Jesus comes for me. If we don't enter that level of consecration, one day, we will find it very easy to explain away why we needed to compromise. Yes. One day, you will find it so easy to explain why you needed to compromise. In fact, the compromise will come in such a way and manner that anybody seeing it, no matter how discerning they are, they will dismiss it as but this is nothing. But before God, it is something. A people must emerge who will say, my allegiance, my consecration before you will remain unstained and unweakened until you come for me. If I'll be the only one to stay on track in this nation, not by power, nor by might, not by boast or by arrogance, not that I'm seeking any fame, just you and me. The way they talk, anytime you are in church, anytime you are fellowship, a prayer session, whatever it is, and at the close of the day, what was talked about, no matter how wonderful it was, it leaves you depressed. Then check it. It wasn't the gospel. It may come from here. It may come from here. They may quote scriptures that are here, even from the New Testament, and explain it well to you. But if it left you depressed and weakened and frustrated and despondent, it wasn't from God. It wasn't. The gospel, if it is the gospel, it must always leave us strengthened to move forward. It must always leave us motivated, strengthened, encouraged. It must always leave us with a renewed determination to break forth into the next level of our journey with God.
In our busy lives, it's easy to lose sight of what truly matters. At Christos Emerge Ministry, we believe that faith is the anchor that keeps us grounded. Each day, we face challenges that test our spirit, but through the Word of God, we find strength and guidance. Imagine gathering your family, sharing stories of hope, and discovering the profound wisdom that the Scriptures offer. Our content is designed to uplift your spirit, nurture your faith, and create a deeper connection with God. Together, we can explore the transformative power of His love and grace. Subscribe to us, and let's embark on this spiritual journey together, enriching our lives and the lives of those we cherish.